project profitability. Again, pretty simple here is if you loan money to a business and the business makes a profit, succeeds economically, does well, guess what? Your loan's going to get repaid, everything's going to go fine, right? But if you make a loan to a business that doesn't make a profit, that loses money, and guess what? Most likely, you're going to potentially lose money, right? So in order for you to have money coming back to repay the loan, there's got to be underlying economic success. And so the best way to look at that is just, do you think that this business activity that you're putting the money in, is it going to be profitable, right? And the best way to determine that is, if it's already profitable, that's even better. And then you only have to really consider, is it going to continue to be profitable, right? Or if it's not profitable yet, do you think it's going to become profitable in the future or not, right? And so the best way to approach that is just to see, is it profitable already? Great. And if not profitable, what signs are there that show that it's likely going to be profitable in the future?
Yep, and this comes back to one of the other reasons why we primarily focus on real estate deals, because it's very simple to get to the conclusion. So within profitability, there's a few different ways to look at it. One is like a deal that we have, the Twin Lakes, Georgia project. The developer's already sold hundreds and hundreds of homes. The deal is profitable. You can see what they make on every single house, and the deal self-sustaining. So a track record in the exact project to sales, whether it's that or it's phase 2 of an established and existing project, or very similar to something nearby that's profitable and you can tell, easy to check the box that the deal could be viable on that side. Now, you still have to validate the costs and make sure it all makes sense. But that is something where, even as a novice investor, you can do your homework on, is this deal already making money? Another way that you can do that, and this is more similar to our Kindred project, is they've been pre-selling the condominiums. They've pre-sold over 70%, setting records in the county for sales prices. So you can see exactly what everything sold for with non-refundable deposits, and you can tell what it costs to build because we have the construction budget, and you can tell, yes, this deal is profitable. So there's a high likelihood of getting your money back because there's cushion there where you're making money over the cost. So those are the two ways to do it in real estate. Now, where it gets a lot harder to do is operating businesses. So this is where I used to be in LBOs, leverage buyouts of operating companies. And it's a lot harder to value those companies, evaluate the prospects, and a lot more risk of execution on operational type businesses than there is on building something where you know what it's going to cost, you can see what it's going to sell for, and you can sometimes even get ahead of the profitability. So in all of those different factors of whether it's profitable today, will be in the future, how you evaluate it, tie into getting the money back. I mean, people can promise any loan term they want and any return they want. And if their disclosure documents could have all the carve-outs there, but a lot of the time you just really need to use common sense of, is this project likely to get my money back in this time frame while still being low risk? You could have a very speculative project out there that's, I'm not going to use any specific examples, but on the operational side, where if it goes really well, everybody's going to get rich in the deal, probably other than the EB-5 investors who are going to get a very low return. But if it doesn't go well, everybody kind of walks away. Like, that's a bad deal. And even if they tell you you'll get your money back in 3 years, what has to happen for you to get that money back in 3 years? Look at the chain of events and the likelihood of each one of those events to achieve profitability. And that will help you evaluate, is the profitability in a deal like Twin Lakes where it's already happening? Like, that's about as close to 100% as you can get, knowing that there's proof points. Or is it on the other side of, if X, Y, and Z happen and we do this, then we think we'll make a really big return. It's just a very different analysis, and that's real estate versus non-real estate. And within real estate, it's going down to the exact same question of, hasn't been done before, how do you see if it's profitable, and go down that direction.
Yeah, and again, like we prefer simple, right? As smart as Mike and I think we are, we're not geniuses, right? Everyone has a limit, right? And so we only invest in things that we understand. And we understand basic residential real estate. You buy the land for X, Your construction cost is Y, you sell it for Z, right? You subtract the first two from Z, there's your profit. Very simple, right? Lots of comparables. You can understand, you can check Zillow, you can see what something's worth, what it's selling for. You can get a bid for a construction cost. It's very simple math, right? And it's very simple for an investor to understand, are these projections credible, right? You can go on Zillow, you can check, rental rates, you can check, what hotels are renting for in the area. It's not that hard to figure out whether assumptions are realistic. Operational business, like for example, or a mine or an energy natural gas company, right? Things that are not very common, where it's not easy to see, okay, what's the real cost here? Are the revenue numbers reasonable? What are the comparables that I can see what something else similar sold for? Those things would be very, very difficult for experienced investors like me and Mike to try to figure out, right? And if they're going to be hard for people like us who've been investing, 30 years of experience, it's going to be very difficult for an investor who has no experience and not a lot of time to spend to try to figure out whether or not the projections that they're looking at are actually credible. I'm sure they'll look profitable and everything will, look like it's going to make money, but you've got to dig in, right? There's a famous saying from the Cold War: trust but verify, right? Just because the numbers on the page show it's going to be profitable in 5 years, you shouldn't trust that alone. You need to do outside research, check Zillow, check the comps, and just see, at the end of the day, it's your money, right? So it doesn't matter what the salesperson says, doesn't matter what the projection says. At the end of the day, you're the only one that needs to be convinced or not. And so after reviewing everything, looking at all the information, you just need to say, am I personally confident that this thing is going to be profitable and make money over the next 5 years? And if the answer is yes, then you should invest. The answer is, I don't know, I don't really understand what's happening. Probably not a good idea for you to invest in that project, and look for something that you understand and you're confident that you think it's going to be economically profitable for you, because the return of your capital is going to be tied to whether or not it actually is profitable or not. And you can read, I don't want to read all of this text on here, but just because a loan has a set maturity date of 3 years, for example, if the underlying economic activity isn't successful, guess what? There's no cash flow, there's no money to pay back that loan. What does that mean? Loan's going to be extended and or default, and could take a lot longer, or you may never get the money back at all, right? So just because something has a set loan term of X, you've got to look at, well, where's that money actually coming from, and is there going to be money there to pay back that loan on time? All right.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
Anand.
just one last piece. Yeah, I just think that a lot of the calculus that I'm starting to hear with the new sustainment period guidance is, oh, well, this project is offering X amount of return, or this project is offering that amount of timeline. And the reality is, like, it used to be, am I going to get my money back or not? And I feel like that's probably what people are starting to forget, because these big numbers can kind of blind you as you're looking at projects of like, oh, 3 years return, but is it really a 3 years return if the project doesn't do well, right? So you have to look at kind of the underlying economics of the project first. And then, like we mentioned on the very first slide, right, the priority is it's got to be the safety of the capital. And then you can look towards getting a return on your investment or getting the money back sooner. If the first thing doesn't happen, you can kiss the rest of it goodbye as well.